Welcome to Creepypasta Theater, a show where we explore the strange world of creepypasta. Join us as we hear tales best left untold, travel roads best left unexplored, and see sights best left unseen. Today's story: The Champion's Domain. Written by Sadguybluu. This story can be found on creepypasta.wikia.com and is protected by Creative Commons license. Guest narration in this episode by Tracy Nicholas. The sound of a skylark alerted her to her surroundings. As she looked around her, her eyes slowly adjusted to the dim light filtering into the ornate room she was in. Dust specks swirled around her. Why was she here? She did not know. She focused hard, probed her mind looking for any answers to her identity or situation. And the answers came. A dull ache on her side revealed a stab wound, and one memory revealed another. She repeated all that she remembered, embedding it in her mind, lest she forget again.
I am Lydia. I am the goddess of mercy and compassion. There was a war among the gods. The usurper has slain all of them. The usurper has claimed my life. Where am I, and why am I not dead?
Now that she felt confident in her identity, she turned her attention back to her surroundings. She was in a massive hall. Glass domes with detailed artworks decorated the roof. She could not make out what the designs were, as the hall itself was a towering structure that made her feel small.
Like a beetle in a castle.
There were pillars holding the gigantic archways up. They too had the same ornate carvings on them. Her heart gave a jolt when she realized that the carvings were glyphs in a long-forgotten system. Curious, she tried to move towards them. The pillars were of marble, embellished with gold and precious gems, and seemed to give off an ethereal glow. The soft yellows of the gold intermixing with the stark white of the marble itself. It was a thing of beauty. This nearly distracted her from realizing how she was walking. It was as if her essence was ahead of her physical body, as if the concept of her was offset from her physical form. She reached the pillar and read the inscription.
This place is the Champion's Domain. It was built by the God-makers, beings beyond time who gave the gods their powers. It is a safeguard against the extinction of the gods, for despite their power, even they are bound by death. If all the gods should be defeated by the usurper, one shall be chosen to return and repair the damage.
This pillar foretold of the usurper's conquest. Inscribed at the end was a warning. Lydia was only allowed to view this pillar. The other pillars had future events she did not have the right to know. She heard a window swing open behind her, her mind still reeling from what she read. She limped towards the window. She saw the dark, ominous clouds looming over the hall itself. She could not get her mind to focus enough.
If the chosen god was supposed to defeat the usurper, why would the God-maker choose to revive the goddess of mercy and compassion? I am not a warrior. How am I supposed to carry the legacy of the pantheon?
Did the God-makers hear her? She did not know. She needed more convincing. She just could not get the courage necessary to kill the usurper. That was surely beyond her. The door to her right creaked open as if in response. She stepped outside the hall. Memories of her past came back to her, clear as crystal. She could see her world below her.
Chaos.
She watched the skies rumble as the puny humans cowered in caves, trying not to die. The world itself suffered. The forces of nature were themselves at war. Snapping back to reality, she glided down slowly, her eyes closed. When she landed and opened her eyes, it took all she had to not break down at the sight of her beloved world. She took a deep breath, trying to keep the sobs in her throat.
The world is in tatters, with creatures in piles, lying unidentifiable and rotting.
It was unbearable to her. She steeled herself and pressed onward. Towards where? She had no idea. Maybe she was to roam the world by herself and hope she kills or gets killed by the usurper. But the destruction was too much. On and on she walked, through burning forests, through scorching deserts, through sandy beds she was sure used to be oceans, all devoid of any life. She had a destination in mind, the spiral tower on the horizon, which was coming nearer each day. Soon, she reached the dark city. She remembered her last time here vaguely. Everything was on fire. She was looking for people to save, and the usurper stabbed her through the side. The taste of blood. The ground had rushed to meet her face. And then she had woken up at the champion's domain. A sound of crying, a scream for help rang out through the city. A human cry, she knew. She looked around for the origin and saw a little boy running out through the mist. His dress was in tatters, his wounds festered and maggot infested. He fell a few feet away from her. As she rushed to help him, a red, serrated sword broke through his back, burning him alive. She stopped in her tracks. In front of her was the usurper in all his glory, taller than anyone she knew, with flaming red hair and a lean stature. In times before the war, when she knew him by his actual name, she was charmed by him and loved his attention. But now, looking at the man in front of her, his arms opened in mock admiration. She felt only one emotion.
Cold, unadulterated fury.
Something snapped in her. Her fury at him for killing that innocent boy, for breaking her trust, for destroying her beloved world, overcame her confused feelings for him. A gold and white spear appeared in her hand, gleaming in a dazzling yellow.
A gift from the Godmakers.
She charged towards him, spear outstretched. He parried his sword. Sparks flew from their weapons as they clashed. It was, at its core, a dance. A deadly dance of vengeance. She thrust her spear at his chest. He grabbed the spear with his hands and spun her around, and she landed a kick to his face. Sweat gleaming on their bodies, they stood, glaring at each other. Then they charged again. Slowly, surely, the usurper was tiring. She disarmed him with a flick of her spear. The sword flew up in the air, and she caught it. With expert strokes, she severed his limbs. He lay there, panting, his eyes widening in fear. It was then she finally understood why the Godmakers had chosen her.
A lightning god without lightning is nothing. But a goddess of mercy and compassion, with neither mercy nor compassion, is unstoppable.
As Lydia walked towards him, blood dripping from her weapons, all feelings of pity drained away from her face. A scream, loud and deep, echoed across the skies. His death would be slow. She was the champion, and this was her domain.
No compassion was left. No mercy was shown.
You have been listening to a presentation of Point of Insanity Game Studio. Visit us on the web at poigamestudio.com. Follow us on Twitter at poigamestudio. Look us up on Facebook and email us at poigamestudio@gmail.com.